Hello. I have some things to say, and I just felt very strongly about coming on here tonight and giving this message to all of you. And before I hit the record button, I was trying to figure out, why don't I want to post this? Why don't I want to do this? Why am I about ready to just say forget it and not do this, And it's because it's real and it's raw and it's vulnerable, and that's hard to put out there, right? And for me, I like having control, right? If all of my episodes are planned and there's an outline and, I meditate on it for a few days, sometimes a couple hours. It just depends on my mood. But, here I am. I'm in my pajamas. I'm not really wearing makeup. My hair is a hot mess. I'm not in my usual spot. I don't have Charlie. We're just shooting from the hip here, okay? But if I help one person with my message, then this is worth it for me, But it all started with some reflection time I was having earlier, and I was just reflecting on why we can get so obsessed with the outcome of something, of our goal, right? And just willing to do everything that it takes to get there, and then sometimes we don't get it, right? Or it's an uphill battle, or we're chugging along, or we see other people getting what we want and not us, or all of these things, right? And we've been talking about some of this stuff over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of episodes, and in various ways and in various perspectives, but what just kept coming to me over and over again in this reflection is the fact that we're so focused on the outcome that we fail to realize that we have to become the person that is worthy of that outcome. Now, I feel like that might have triggered some of you. Good, then this message is for you. So I said the W word, and I know that that's a really challenging word to face, worthiness, right? A lot of people struggle with self-worth. I know that was, I struggle with that for most of my life, right? And I spent the large majority of my life trying to determine my own worthiness based on how others saw me, or how worthy others thought that I am, and wanting others to know who I am, and forgetting that what matters is that I know who the hell I am, right? And I am the only judge of me. Nobody else. And going into Thanksgiving and going into the holidays is really hard for a lot of people, and especially going home to families, or not having a family to go home to, or being in a tumultuous situation with your family and maybe you're not going home, or you're choosing not to, or all of these things. The holidays too coming up, and just facing, maybe you don't have as much money as you would like to spend on presents for everybody, or you can't go take that family vacation that you want. Maybe that makes you feel unworthy of your family, or whatever, all of these things. And the list could go on, right? The list could just go on. So I think that it's a time where a lot of people are looking in the mirror and trying to determine their own worth and evaluating where they are in life, right? Because Thanksgiving is usually a time of reflection, of specifically gratitude and things that you are grateful for, and just with the end of the year coming, I'm obsessed with New Year's. I love New Year's. I love thinking about the prior year and reflecting on that, and thinking about how I have grown and, you know, how my life has shaped and where am I on, you know, towards my goals, on the timeline towards my goals. Like, am I on target, or what do I still need to do, right? But in the sense that I'm talking about, let's kind of parallel it to business, okay? One of the leading causes of failure for a business is getting what you want, but not being ready for it. Maybe it's a huge marketing campaign that you went and did, and you got all the business that you were hoping to get from it, but you weren't ready for it. You didn't have the staff for it. You didn't have the infrastructure for it. Your system couldn't handle it, right? You didn't have workflows in place. You didn't have the tools that you needed to handle it, right? Telling you, a lot of businesses fail because of that exact thing. And there are a lot of businesses that run on survival mode constantly. And they run on survival mode, you know, where it's basically patchwork the whole way. Like, what do I got to do to be able to move forward? And we'll worry about it later. You know, we'll figure it out later. Oh, we'll clean that up later. Or we can fix that later. Or we can work that out later. Or this, da, da, da. And eventually it catches up. Eventually you're going to run smack dab into a wall, and you're going to be eating those words, and you're going to wish that you stopped and took the time to be more prepared and have the infrastructure in place and hire the staff that you need and build your systems up and get everything ready, right? Same thing with real estate development. How many times, or how many of you are living in an area that's overdeveloped and the infrastructure wasn't ready for it, right? We want the economy, we want the taxes, we want the growth to a degree for what growth can bring, but you don't have the roads to support it. You don't have the civil servants to support it. You don't have enough jobs for people. You don't have everything you need in place to handle that. You're putting up subdivisions left and right, and you don't have the electric grid to handle it. If y'all remember my streetlight episode, I complained about this in that episode about the ridiculous growth in our area and how, you know, my house is basically at the tail end of that grid. And so we're seeing a lot of power failures and surges and all of these troubles, right? Cell service. We have a lot of issues with cellular service and network, right? There's too many freaking people, and they didn't build the foundation to handle that growth and to be prepared for what that brings, okay? So now I just gave you two very, very, very great examples of what I'm talking about here. And how is that tying back to worthiness, right? Because you're like, you hooked me on that. You said you were going to talk about worthiness. Okay. A lot of times we think of worthiness as morality or what you're deserving of or what your value is, right? But worthiness in this sense, and the point that I'm trying to get across is about capacity. And do you have the capacity to handle what it is you want? Now, what does that mean? Well, that can mean something different depending on your situation. Do you know what I mean? But whether or not you have the capacity is something you're going to have to ask for yourself and look in a mirror. And I'm sure everybody could look in a mirror and say, hey, I don't like this about myself, or I could do better here, or whatnot. But I know that there are some of you that are basing your worthiness based on people in your life. Maybe it's a parent who doesn't see you, or, you know, you feel like you're always trying to do better and better and better, and you're still not enough for somebody in your life, right? And then there's people that go and chase these big outcomes and these big goals in their life because on some level, they think that that is going to make them worthy, that that is going to increase their worth. Maybe they've faced feelings of unworthiness all of their life, and they think that if they go do this one thing, or if they can just get to this one point, or if they can just do whatever, then they'll be worthy. Then they'll be the person that they want to be. Then they'll have the life that they want to be. But you have to become the person worthy of it. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. Like I said, this is very unstructured, so thoughts are just kind of flowing. But, becoming the person that can handle what it is you want is also about alignment, right? I can't remember if I said it earlier, but I know a lot of people see others getting what it is that they want, and you ask, why do they get it? And why not me? You're not ready for it. In some degree, you're not ready for it. There is something that you need to change for yourself and in your situation or whatnot to be prepared for that, to be ready for that, to be worthy of that, right? And if you're saying, Reina, that's not what worthy means. Not the literal definition of the word worthy, okay? But think about like credit worthiness. When we're talking about credit worthiness, right? They're not looking to see if you're worth giving credit to, as far as like, do you deserve it, or are you good enough for it, right? It's no. It's, do you have the capacity to handle that debt, and can you pay it off responsibly? Are you capable? Do you have the capacity to handle that? So it is a journey with yourself. And I think that it's, especially like throughout the holidays, I think a lot of times people forget that, right? Like it's about wanting to come home for the holidays to be able to say, hey, I did this, or hey, I accomplished this, or I'm doing this now, or I'm whatever, And it does feel good. It does feel good when you can step in front of people that maybe in the past have made you feel unworthy. Or, I know a lot of people don't like saying someone made you feel something, right? Or in the presence of someone that you felt unworthy in their presence, right? Or you didn't feel worthy to them, if you want to look at it in terms of that. And it's hard to not think about that. It's hard to not care what they think, and it's hard not to want that validation, to want that acceptance, and to, maybe you felt like a disappointment or not the same as everybody else. Like that's something I personally struggle with. So I can definitely relate, and you see me, I get a little uncomfortable when I think about that. I think the takeaway kind of just needs to be, you need to figure out what is going to make you worthy of what it is that you want. And it can't be based on anyone's definition of what that means. You. I'm going to give you a good example. And now this is me just being really raw and vulnerable. So a couple months ago, when I was really trying to get into the rhythm of managing this channel and, being a mom and working full time and taking care of my household and having health issues, and my dog is sick, as some of you know, and that's kind of a lot, and just the financial burdens that came with everything and just managing everything, I was under enormous stress. And there were nights when it was time to film an episode, and I would get I had maybe I worked late that night. There was times when my son had football practice. So I worked late, had football practice, still had to get dinner, still had to do laundry, tired, whatever. Then the dog needs to go out, and then the dog needs his medicine, and then and this and this and this, and then the internet's not working, and this cable's malfunctioning, and the light's not turning. I needed to charge that cable, and then I trip over a cable, and then the input's not working, and things are just and I noticed that I was losing it. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but it was just like if I were a tea kettle, I was steaming, and I was not in a good headspace. I was not in good energy. And there were times where I would just say, I'm not filming tonight. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Because I cannot get myself out of that headspace. And then, then it would be like this thing where it was like the next day maybe wasn't much better, or I would film and then it was like I'm not gonna have enough time for editing, and then I would have to post a day late, and then I'd be stressed about that and all these things, and I really had to kind of dig deep and figure out, how can you sit here and want a successful channel when you're not disciplined enough to film early enough to where you're not doing this so last minute, or to where all of this stuff isn't piling on you at once, to where you're scrambling to get all of your stuff set up because you only have an hour to film before you got to go to bed, or whatever, or you got to film now, or you're not going to have time to edit, or all these things. That was my foundation that was weak. So I was like, oh, my channel's not growing, and and then I had to kind of realize I need to get my stuff together, right? Like, I'm not worthy of growth. What am I going to do? What am I going to do when things start shaking and moving, and I'm over here in, stressed out mode all 24/7, and, not sleeping, and, just angry every time something goes wrong, and that's not going to work. That's not going to work. So, and I was, and I was in my head a lot about what others thought. And I know I'm giving the example of content creation. Apply this to literally any aspect of your life, okay? Because it does fit. I'm just giving you the most recent example of this. So, I had to get it together. I had to get on a better schedule. I had to really step away from being so focused on perfection and so focused on making sure that I'm doing content that, others are going to want to see, and not focusing on what I want. And, and there's theories about that, there's theories of content creation about that, because I'm not here for my own entertainment. I'm here for you. So, it does matter to me what my audience wants and what they resonate with, and where it's going, but I've also learned that when I'm in alignment and when I'm in a good headspace, I flow better, and I get a lot better. I just get a lot more from those episodes where I just kind of let loose a little bit, and just be myself, and not so focused on making sure every little thing, So, and just having more patience with things, with my dog, and I mean, the dog has to go out like every freaking 30 minutes. It's a lot, But as I started to kind of hone in on that, right, and really face that and really work on that, and I would be intentional, and I would be aware, I would, in those moments, I would feel it, I'm about to pop. And I have to say, whatever, go do some freaking yoga or whatever, whatever I got to do. Go have some tea, or go, put your headphones in and just go meditate for a while, or, go to the gym real quick and work out and go sit in the sauna, or whatever I have to do to come down. And the more I did that, and the more intentional I was with that, the more I kind of like reprogrammed myself to have more patience and know right off the bat, like if I go to film and things are just already just not working right or whatever, I'm just like, it's not the right time. And being okay with that. Or, if I'm filming and like great example, filming this, there's probably about 800 times me filming this that I probably would have stopped and re-recorded it because I didn't like one thing that I said, or I almost did this live to hold myself to not doing that. And as of yet, we are 20 minutes into this recording and I have not re-recorded anything. So you're getting it. I'm probably going to go edit out some like pauses and whatnot, but do you see what I'm saying? I had to learn to let go of that, because that's part of having the capacity of being successful in this, right? Is like being capable of rolling with the punches and just kind of relinquishing a little bit of control while still, being in control, if you know what I'm saying, like being in control but not being controlling, if that makes sense. And like I said, being really more disciplined on managing everything so that I don't get to that point of overwhelm. See what I mean? Like even before this, right? Like I already knew my dog has to go out before and after he eats. So I was like, okay, well, I took him out and then I fed him and I sat there and I waited for him because I already knew if I started recording and he had to go out, I was going to get irritated. So you see what I'm saying? So you have to be intentional about what you need to do to have the capacity to hold your outcome that you want. Just think about like the business example in the development and expansion in community, right? And there's a message here about relinquishing traditions, the hold that traditions, and then some people come from really, really traditional families, and that's it, there is honor in respecting your family and whatever, but at the end of the day, you are you, and you are responsible for yourself, and you have to look yourself in the mirror. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter. You are worthy when you deem yourself worthy. I didn't need permission to change. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't need anybody to tell me, hey, you're doing a much better job at blah, blah, blah. Oh, and I talked about this in another episode. Whenever I did hospitality training, people would ask me, what is your key to success as far as making money? I said, listen, focus on giving people an experience and the money will come. But if you sit here and you focus on the money, focus on the outcome, and what do I got to do, you might make money for a time and you might get some good punches, but overall, long-term sustainability, you're not going to make it. There would be nights where, there were nights where I would go, I wouldn't even look at tips, specifically what tips people gave me on purpose, because it's I don't want my focus to be on that. Sometimes I would, if it was somebody that I really, or if I got the sense that they wanted me to see it, there was ways you kind of knew, but, and I wanted to honor that. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So my point is, you have to become the person that is worthy, aka capable of handling the outcome that you seek and what you want. And in the last week's episode, we talked about that, about becoming the success and not chasing it, right? I have a short, I think, going right now that talks about that. Yes, I do. And accepting that you've done the work. And if you haven't, do the work, right? Become that person that you think that you're going to become. Once you get that thing, become it before you get to that thing, right? Because think about our business example. You have businesses that think, oh, well, we just need more customers. Like, we just need, more people to come in. And that's true to a degree. But if you're not ready for it, you will fail. You will collapse. You won't make it. Remember that. So don't focus so much on the outcome. Focus on who you need to become to be worthy of that outcome. Does that make sense? See what I'm saying? So, I don't know how many of you made it this far, but I hope it was worth it. I hope the message was clear. I hope this helped somebody, So go into this season of holidays, right? This holiday season. Figure out what you need to do, what you need to work on to be worthy on your own terms. Don't go into the holidays judging yourself based on what kind of reactions you get from your family, or whether or not you feel seen. You need to see yourself. And that's hard to do. That's really hard to do. But you just can't lose sight of that. You can't lose sight of that, So, and then I know a lot of people are against ChatGPT and using ChatGPT for that, but ChatGPT has helped a lot of people. You can ask ChatGPT, hey, I reacted this way to this. Why am I like this? Why did I do that? And go back and forth and kind of unpack and figure out, or like, what can I do to overcome this? Or how can I be better in this regard? I don't know why I felt like throwing that in there, but I did. But anyways, all right, that's all I have to say. I don't know. Happy holidays. I'm probably gonna, what time is it? I might film an episode tonight. Go get myself ready. I don't know. Who knows? I'm kind of liking this vibe, this atmosphere we might do it in here. Anyways, talk to you soon. Deuces.